May be seated. Y'all got it all set?
I hope so.
Hope so. Okay.
Believe so.
It's technology. Both sides ready to proceed?
Yes.
Okay, let's return to jury.
All right, jury entry.
May be seated. State recognized persons of jury
Yes, Your Honor.
and the defense.
Yes, Your
And members of the jury, did you abide by all my previous instructions?
Honor. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Burdick, you may proceed. State may call the next witness.
The state will call James Pearson.
Please raise your right hand, please.
You solemnly swear the testimony you should give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
You may proceed.
Thank you. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Could you please tell the court and the jury your name?
This is James Pearson.
And Mr. Pearson, back in November of 2009, how were you employed?
I was a security officer at the Gateway Building on 1000 Legion Place in Orlando.
Were you subcontracted
Yes, ma'am.
as a security officer?
Yes, ma'am.
What company did you work for at that time?
Allied Barton.
Were you in uniform?
Yes, ma'am.
How many security officers were on duty, or let me put it this way, how many security officers are typically on duty at that building at one time?
One officer.
Okay. So on November 6th of 2009, you would have been working alone?
Yes, ma'am.
What sort of uniform would you be wearing, or did you wear?
At the time, we had a light blue shirt with dark blue slacks and black shoes.
Was there a particular location within the building where you were stationed?
In the lobby,
Okay.
at the front
And
desk.
a particular post in the lobby?
The front desk, as soon as you walk in.
Does that front desk have any means by which you can observe what's going on at different parts of the property?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you describe for us what that is?
At the time, they had 14 cameras. So we had 3 monitors that had the 14 cameras on them behind our posts so we can see them at all times.
Did you have access to the camera system?
Yes, ma'am.
How did that occur? How could you get access to the camera system?
Well, we had to take our duty keys to the fire command room. There's a lock box. We're putting our lock code. Get another key to the DVR system that was located in the engineer's room. Then we can open it and access the DVR at that time.
So aside from yourself, who else would typically be able to access the camera system?
Only building management.
So building management and the security officer on duty.
Yes, ma'am.
On November 6th of 2009, were you working at the Gateway Center,
Yes, ma'am.
working alone?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you take regular pathways throughout the property?
Yes, ma'am. I would do at least 1 patrol an hour of the 18 floors and the 6 floors of the parking garage.
And what would your patrol of the facility entail?
We're just going through office suites, stairwells, all areas of the parking garage, surface lot, make sure everything was kosher.
How long typically would it take you to make one loop, so to speak?
25 to 30 minutes.
And when you weren't making the loop, you were at that front desk that you
Stationed at
described
the desk.
with the bank of cameras?
Yes, ma'am.
On November 6th of 2009, how did you become alerted to the fact that there was a shooting on the 8th floor?
I was alerted by a guy getting off the service elevators in the parking garage.
Prior to your actually being alerted to that, where were you?
I was at the front desk, and then an incident happened that caused me to patrol the parking garage.
Have you had the opportunity to view the video surveillance of the building from November 6th of 2009?
Yes, ma'am.
You had mentioned 14 cameras before.
Yes, ma'am.
Were you able to view all 14 camera angles?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you observe yourself and particular individuals that you may have come into contact with on those cameras?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there a date and time stamp on the camera as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Prior to turning the item over to law enforcement, were you able to verify that the date and time stamp on the security system was accurate?
Yes, ma'am.
How did you do that?
On the bottom corner of the videotape, there's the time and date. And previous to that, we've had to make DVDs of video before that
different
match time and date.
cases?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So you regularly calibrate or check to make sure that the time is correct on the security camera system?
Yes, ma'am. Security One had just not longly did a check on that, so everything was accurate at the time.
Your Honor, at this point, I would seek to introduce what I've had marked as State's AE for identification into evidence.
What says the defense?
No objection.
It will be received in evidence as the state's next numbered exhibit, number
13.
All right. May the witness come down, please?
yes.
Permission to publish the disc item in 13.
You may? Yes.
All right. Can you see that well, Mr. Pearson? First of all, can you, while I have it on pause, can you explain to the jury what we are looking at?
Just an 8-way
timestamp there? Is that accurate as to what's going on each of these cameras at that specific time? Was your attention first drawn to a particular camera? All right, we're talking about this camera here. There's an individual shown in this camera angle. Is that somebody that did something that drew your attention?
That individual is armed me.
There's probably an easier way to talk with this, right, you said an individual hit that arm gate, so what did you do in response?
Just follow them on the cameras. Observing one of the camera six.
Right here?
Service elevators and parking lot.
And then once that individual gets onto the elevator, what do you do?
I stand up in the lobby. So just looking through the glass doors, and shortly after that, I get on the same camera six elevators and go to the parking lot. Start looking for that individual.
Now, how long do you think you stayed at your post in the lobby before you decided to go find this person that came in through the south gate?
Probably a minute and a half. Usually we get people that come through the, go through the wrong set of elevators, those are the first elevators you see, before you see the main lobby. Usually people come back down and come back through the right entrance, but it took a little longer to,
Now, this camera system is in real time, correct? Right, so at this juncture, at 11:34:39, you're still in the interior lobby. Correct. So the next thing that we should see is you moving away from the desk in the lobby. Let's give it a second then. While time is elapsing, the individual who got onto elevator 6, you haven't picked up on any cameras again while you're still here? It can be moved. Mr. Pearson, how would one, thank you, how would one access the building from the garage elevators?
We have 3 stairwells in the garage. 2 of them can take you through the 6th floor through the 7th floor. And you can gain access to the building then. But you need a key card.
Like
It's a proxy card access.
Swipe card?
Yes, ma'am.
And if you don't have a swipe card, can you get into the floors of the building from the parking garage?
No, ma'am.
Okay, what is your only alternative?
You would have to come back through, down the elevators or one of the stairwells, then go around the building and come back through the entryway, the main entrance.
Okay, past where the security guard is?
Yes, ma'am.
The 14 different camera angles that we saw, that was in real time. Were you also able to view a video synopsis that kind of compresses that time for accuracy?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I may approach the witness with what's been marked as AD for identification.
You may.
Just have you take a look at that. Is that a disc that you viewed that compresses some of the time frames in that view that we just saw?
Yes, ma'am.
Or at this point, I would say you use AD for identification in your evidence.
Any objections?
No, Your Honor.
Be received in evidence as states numbered
14.
Mr. Pearson, were you working in the building in 2006 or 2007?
No, ma'am. I came in June of 2009.
Okay. So you do not know an individual by the name of Jason Rodriguez?
No, ma'am.
All right. Thank you. I have no other questions for Mr. Pearson, Your Honor.
cross-examination.
When you were explaining the video to us, you said that there's a directory in the lobby.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that part of the desk that you sit at?
Yes, ma'am.
So if I were to turn this around, it's similar to, I can't, similar to this where your desk is there and then it slopes down, it has a directory.
Yeah, sort of like this. And on the front side here is a directory.
Okay, and that directory has a list of all the businesses in the buildings and their location.
Yes, ma'am.
And in the video, it appears that the man goes up and looks at the directory. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
May Mr. Pearson be excused.
You may.
Thank you, Mr. Pearson. You may be excused. State may call his next witness.
Matthew Ring. Ring, as in.
Ring.
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 Please raise your right hand, face the front.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you should give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You may proceed.
Thank you. Please tell the court and the jury your name and occupation.
Sergeant Matthew Ring with the Orlando Police Department,
How long have you been with OPD?
8 years.
Okay. Your current assignment with them is?
I'm a sergeant over the southeast sector of the city.
Okay, patrol?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Back in November of 2009, what was your assignment?
November 2009, I was assigned as a patrol officer to the northwest sector of the city.
Which would include what areas?
Pine Hills, Rosemont.
Would it include any part of downtown?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Were you working on November 6th of 2009?
Yes, I was.
In what capacity?
I was working in an off-duty capacity at the Lynx bus station, 455 North Garland.
Okay. When you're working in an off-duty capacity, are you still in uniform?
Yes, ma'am. Still in full uniform. It's an approved job that is approved through the city, and basically we work at a contracted rate for private companies as added security.
All right. Even though you're in uniform, do you have your patrol vehicle or access to a patrol vehicle at the same time?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Were you working in that off-duty capacity at about 11:45 on November 6th of 2009 when a call went out over OPD dispatch or emergency channels?
Yes, ma'am, I was.
Okay. What did you do as a result of that dispatch?
When I heard the call go out, I immediately entered my patrol vehicle and began responding to the scene.
How far would you estimate is that Lynx bus station from Legion Place?
Within just a couple of miles, it's a straight shot down Garland to Legion.
Okay. How long did it take you to get there?
Maybe 3 minutes.
Okay. What were your observations?
Upon arrival at the scene, I exited my vehicle. I had actually got there at the same time as another officer, and we started to form up as a team to start heading towards the building.
Okay. What was it that you all had, at least in that brief moment, planned to do based on the call out?
Basically, we reverted to our training and we assessed a team to respond to basically an active shooting incident. And so we set up a team of 3 and began moving toward where we saw people running out of a parking garage and one victim being escorted by another officer. Started moving towards the parking garage as we're trained to do to move toward contact.
All right. At that point in time, did you have any idea whether or not the shooter had left the building?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So what response do you have initially? Is it to assist anyone who's injured, anybody who's a witness, or do you take another role?
At that point, it was to move to wherever there may be victims to find out and assess the scene, and more or less to confront any suspects that may still be on scene.
Okay. Would it be fair to say that the reaction of the Orlando Police Department to the emergency channel dispatch of an active shooter was overwhelming?
Yes, ma'am. There was several officers throughout the city responding.
Okay. Since you were so close, you were one of, if not the first.
Yes, ma'am. I was probably about 3rd on scene.
Okay. Did you enter the building?
Yes, I did.
How many officers entered with you?
There were 3 other officers with me at the time.
Okay. How did you gain entry? Or what was at least your first attempt to gain entry?
We entered through the parking garage, the parking structure that's attached to the building. That's where I had observed one of the officers coming out with a victim, and we entered into the parking garage. As we were walking or going past the officer with the victim, somebody shouted out that there was someone shooting on the 8th floor.
Okay. So did you attempt to get to the 8th floor through the parking garage?
Yes, ma'am.
How did you do that?
We utilized the elevator from the parking garage, not knowing if they meant 8th floor of the parking garage or 8th floor of the building. We took it to the top, found out that the parking garage was only 6 stories, and then we gained access to the building through a stairwell door.
Okay. Are you familiar with whether or not there's more than one stairwell?
I believe there's several stairwells on the building, I think, and as well as the parking structure, but I think only one of them actually linked to the building and the structure as the same common stairwell.
All right. Were you able to gain access to the 8th floor?
No, ma'am.
Through that garage stairwell?
No, ma'am.
Why not?
The 8th floor was locked, as well as several other floors. I think it more or less a security bypass on them.
All right. So whenever you got into the stairwell, the only way you could have accessed the floors above 6, obviously 7, 8, 9, was how?
Via key card or a door key. So as we moved up, in fact, continued finding locked doors, we just kept going until we found an unlocked stairwell door.
All right. So how far did you have to go up until you found that floor?
The 11th floor.
Okay. So you gain access to the office part of the building at the 11th floor.
Yes, ma'am.
What do you do then?
As we came out of the stairwell, came into the area where the elevators were, and we observed an open area with a conference room, large glass window. Inside the conference room, there were several people having a meeting. It seemed like they were unaware at the time of what had occurred in the building.
All right. Did you direct your attention to them at all, or did you just leave them be?
No, we directed our attention to them because at the same time we were making entry onto the 11th floor, we were getting reports on the radio that the suspect may have fled the scene already.
Okay. So what response do you make to that alert?
At that point, we have to kind of slow things down because now we're not moving to contact as more to an unknown. So we didn't want to leave the people on the 11th floor unprotected, so we began evacuating them out of the building via the elevators.
Okay. From 11 straight down to 1?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you make it back up to the 8th floor where your report of the shooting having occurred
Yes,
at all?
ma'am. Yes, after I finished riding the elevators with the groups of people from the 11th floor, I came back up to the 11th and met up with the rest of our team, and then went directly to the 8th.
How many people do you think approached the 8th floor at that point?
At that point, there was 4 of us.
Okay. Would that have included canine officers?
Yes.
Somebody with a dog?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. One dog, many dogs?
Just one dog.
Do you get off the elevator at the 8th floor?
Yes, ma'am.
And what are your observations up there?
As you came off the elevator, it came into like a central lobby in between the elevators on the floors, and there was a doorway that had 2 shut doors. We went to try and make entry to the doors and found them to be locked.
What do you do at that point?
One of the officers I was with began banging on the door, and we called out that we were the Orlando Police and to open the door.
Did the door open?
No.
Why not?
A male's voice came back through the doors and said, I need to see a badge. I'm not opening the door until I see a badge.
Okay. Did you respond to that request?
Yes, ma'am. At the time, one of the canine officers who was wearing his canine uniform, which isn't the standard patrol uniform, was standing in the doorway and said, I'm wearing a uniform. And we were again told I need to see a badge. At that point, I stepped in front of the door, displaying my badge through the crack in the between the 2 doors to show my badge.
Okay. Did the people inside then unlock the door?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you able to then gain entry into Suite 800, the offices of Reynolds, Smith, and Hills?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What was your first response upon entry?
Upon entering, the first thing that we saw was a known black male at the time laying unconscious on the floor and visibly appeared dead.
Okay. What did you do?
I stepped over him and asked for someone that was in charge, and a male had identified himself as one of the supervisors for the floor.
Did you go on into the offices of
Yes.
the 8th floor?
Yes, ma'am.
For what reason?
To try and continue to secure it, because we were asking if the suspect was still on the floor. Some people said no, he left. Others were uncertain of whereabouts. So we wanted to secure the floor and also try and gather up any victims.
You had mentioned an unknown black male on the floor of the lobby. Were you able to locate other victims on that floor?
Yes, ma'am. The supervisor that I made contact with stated that he had locked 2 other gunshot victims into closet spaces on the floor, and I asked him to show me where they were.
Okay. And he directed you to them?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you continue to walk the floor to ensure that either the shooter had left or that anyone else who had been injured was attended to?
Yes, ma'am. We left one of the officers with the initial people that were right there by the door, and then moved forward into the 8th floor and basically began a search and systematically moved toward the other victims, and then we corralled them back and continued trying to secure the floor and search the floor.
All right. Were you able to secure it and clear it?
Yes, ma'am.
Once you cleared the 8th floor and made arrangements for the victims up there to get help, did you continue assisting other members of the Orlando Police Department to clear other floors of the building?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I have no other questions for Sergeant Rain.
Thank you.
Cross-examination.
No question.
May the sergeant be excused.
Yes.
Thank you, Sergeant.
Thank you, Your
Be
Honor.
excused. State may call the next witness.
Paul Bruning.
may proceed.
Thank you. Please tell the court and the jury your name and occupation.
Detective Paul Bruning with the Orlando Police Department
How long have you been with OPD?
since December of 1994.
Back in November, specifically November 6th of 2009, what was your assignment?
I was assigned as a detective to the Fugitive Investigative Unit.
Okay, and what is that?
Basically, we look for people with warrants or who are fugitives.
Were you working on that day,
Yes,
November
ma'am.
6th?
Yes,
At
ma'am.
about 11:45?
Yes, I was.
Okay. Were you in a specific location over at Orlando Police Headquarters or elsewhere?
At the time the incident started, I was in the Pine Hills area, Pine Hills and Silver Star.
Did you hear a call to respond to 1000 Legion Place?
Yes,
Okay, and did you do so?
I did.
Once you were there, were you given a particular assignment?
No.
Okay, what happened?
On the way there, I heard a name go out on the radio of a possible suspect. So I started looking up driver's license pictures of people with that name to try to figure out who it might be. If they had left by the time I got there, we could start looking for where he would be, which is a lot of what we do in the fugitive unit.
All right. Was the name of a possible individual Jason Rodriguez?
Yes.
Okay. Were you able initially to locate one Jason Rodriguez?
No.
Okay, why not?
I started looking up just for Jason Rodriguez in Orange County, and there were about 10 of them. And initially, none of them jumped out as somebody I thought would be the person involved based on the information that was coming across the radio.
Okay, so what did you do to try to clarify or narrow down the pool?
I looked on my computer at the call, and I started calling phone numbers of people, witnesses or complainants that had called the incident in, to try to meet with one of them who might know who he was, to show them the pictures, to see if they could tell me which one it would be.
All right. So you have access in your vehicle to the 911 call information as it comes in?
Yes.
And you can see who may have reported the name or a possible name.
Yes.
Who did you then contact to try to get an identification?
The person I got a hold of on the phone was a Keith Brockman.
Okay. Were you able to meet with Mr. Brockman?
Yes, ma'am.
And where did that take place?
He was locked down with some other people across the street at the Sheraton in a restaurant bar area.
Okay. And once you were able to meet with Mr. Brockman at the Sheraton, did you show him a variety of photographs of Jason Rodriguez?
Yes, I showed him the 10 pictures that I had found, and he said that none of those were the Jason Rodriguez he knew that had worked there.
Okay. How were you able then to narrow the scope?
At that point, another detective, George Carbonell, called me on the phone, and he had come up with another possibility. He gave me that information with Jason Rodriguez's driver's license number, so I put that in the computer, pulled his picture up, and then showed Mr. Brockman that one. That would have been the 11th one that I showed him.
Okay. And when you did that, what happened?
He immediately verified that that was the Jason Rodriguez that had worked there, that was involved.
Okay. And you said that was done utilizing driver's license information.
Yes, ma'am.
Did that have an address attached or affixed?
I don't remember what the address on the driver's license information was, and at this point, I don't remember how we came up with the address that we ultimately found him.
Okay.
But it's a possibility. I'm not sure at this point.
All right. Now, you said you were with the Fugitive Investigative Unit.
Yes.
So once you have your name and your identification, are other individuals with the Orlando Police Department working towards locating that individual somewhere within the county?
Yes, other members of my unit. There's a total of 5 of us on the unit. At this point, I don't remember which ones were specifically there or not, but anybody that would have been on duty that day in my unit would have been helping or was helping.
Okay. Were you ultimately able to to get an address and locate the Jason Rodriguez that was identified by Mr. Brockman?
Yes, ma'am.
Where did that take place?
Hollowbrook Apartments on Curry Ford Road.
Did you approach the Hollowbrook Apartments?
I drove into the apartment complex and I saw the vehicle registered to Mr. Rodriguez in the parking lot, parked in front of his mother's apartment.
Okay. What kind of a vehicle was registered to Mr. Rodriguez, do you recall?
Like a silver Nissan Xterra, like the SUV looking car.
Were you in a patrol car?
No, I was in an unmarked car.
Okay. How were you dressed?
Shorts and a t-shirt, and then with the bulletproof vest, and over that with my gun.
Okay. Did you get out of the car?
Not initially. We just watched the car, and then more people got there, and eventually we got out and got closer to the apartment and just held. I actually ended up staying at the back on the back door to make sure he didn't get out the back before the SWAT team got there.
Okay. So you just continued to surveil the property
Yes,
without making your presence known.
correct.
What time on November 6th of 2009 did that occur?
1:30 in the afternoon.
Thank you. I don't have any other questions for the witness, Your Honor.
Cross-examination.
No questions.
May the detective be excused?
Yes.
Thank you, detective. You may be
Thank you.
excused, sir. State may call his next witness.
Dennis A. Hearn.
Ahern.
Please raise your right hand, face the front.
You solemnly swear the testimony you give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
You may proceed.
Thank you. Please tell the court and the jury your name and occupation.
My name is Dennis Ahern, and I'm a retired police officer with the Orlando Police Department, presently serving as a reserve officer with the Orlando Police Department.
Were you working as a reserve or active back on November 6th of 2009?
I was an active police officer at that time.
Okay. Did you have a particular assignment at the Orlando Police Department?
I was the investigative supervisor at the Airport Division on November 6, 2009.
Okay. On that date, at approximately 11:45, just before noon, did you become aware of an incident having occurred at 1000 Legion Place, the Gateway Center?
Yes, I did.
What was your response to that alert going out over the emergency system of the Orlando Police Department?
I received a staff page of the shooting that had occurred at 1000 Legion Place, so I turned to the emergency channel where they were conducting operations in response to that.
All right. Did you actually leave your location?
At the time I was out on the road, I returned to the airport after I heard the initial call go out.
Did you begin some investigative effort there at the airport once you heard the call?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Were you able to locate an individual who had at that point been identified as Jason Rodriguez, locate an address for that individual?
Yes, I did.
How were you able to do that?
I went to an investigative website and checked Jason Rodriguez's name and found that approximately 1 week prior he had pawned an item at a local pawn shop.
And once you obtained, was there some address information that was given to the pawn shop?
Yes, there was.
Okay. Was that B207 Hollowbrook Road, which is an apartment complex?
Yes.
Okay. Did you share that information or go to that location?
I did both. I shared the information with Sergeant Brennan, Roger Brennan, who was the homicide sergeant at that time, and I also responded to that location with one of my detectives.
Immediately?
Probably within, I would say, 10 to 15 minutes after pulling up additional information.
Okay. How long did it take you to get from the airport to this location?
I would say approximately 10 to 15 minutes.
Did you go to the apartment upon your arrival?
No, ma'am.
What role did you take at that point?
Detective Margison and I were in an unmarked police vehicle, and we set up a surveillance of the building in question in the parking lot of the apartment complex.
Okay. Why was it necessary to do that?
While I was waiting for instructions, if any, from Sergeant Brennan, and also because of the nature of the call, just wanted to see if whatever we could see as far as any movement by the suspect in or around that apartment.
All right. So at this point, you don't have any idea whether or not he is actually there. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Where were you positioned in order to conduct the surveillance?
We parked a little bit northeast of the apartment building, which was Building B in the apartment complex.
Did you notice any activity?
Not immediately.
Okay. How long were you there before you noticed anything that caught your attention?
I would think between about 5 or 10 minutes was when we first noticed something.
And what was that?
We saw a woman come out of Building B, which was the building where the Rodriguez apartment was located, and she went to the driver's door, entered the driver's door of a silver Hyundai, which was parked in front of the building.
Did you know whether or not the silver Hyundai had some association with B207?
Yes, I did.
Right? And what knowledge did you have at that point about that particular vehicle?
I had learned that Jason Rodriguez's mother, Anna Lopez, owned the silver Hyundai, which was parked in front of the vehicle, parked in front of the building.
Okay. Did you have a picture of Anna Lopez available to you to determine whether or not the woman who came out was she?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And was it her?
Yes, it was.
Okay. What did she do?
She got in her vehicle, started it, drove actually north in the parking lot, and then turned around and drove south and out of the parking lot of the apartment complex.
Did you maintain your position, or did you break from it to make contact with her?
I started driving. As she started leaving the apartment complex, we began to follow her in my unmarked police vehicle.
For what reason?
We weren't sure if perhaps she was going somewhere to meet with her son.
And where did she go?
She drove out to Curry Ford Road, actually turned west initially, then turned back east on Curry Ford Road, and drove into the parking lot of what was then Albertson's grocery store at the corner of Curry Ford and State Road 436.
Did you make contact with her there?
Yes, I did.
Were you able to confirm her son's location at that point?
Yes, I was.
Was it determined that he was inside the apartment at 207B or B207?
Yes, I did confirm that.
Thank you. I have no other questions for the witness, Your Honor.
Cross-examination?
None.
Okay, officer be excused.
You may.
Thank you, sir. You may be excused.
Thank you, Your Honor.
State may call the next witness.
Scott Smith?
Scott Smith.
Please raise your right hand, please declare.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
You may proceed.
Thank you. Please tell the court and the jury your name and occupation.
My name is Scott Smith. I'm with the Orlando Police Department. I'm the supervisor assigned with the K-9 unit right now. Been with the agency for 21 years.
What was your assignment back on November 6th of 2009?
At that point, I was assigned to patrol as a patrol supervisor, but I was also assigned to the SWAT team.
Were you a supervisor on the SWAT team?
I was.
Was the SWAT team asked to respond to any particular location as a result of a call out for an active shooter at 1000 Legion Place?
We were. And we initially we responded to Legion Place.
Okay. Did you take an active role in clearing the building at Legion Place?
When I first responded, I went to our SWAT command post and then was given a brief description and the incident, deployed to the Gateway Center lobby area in order to start floor to floor clearing for the suspect. But at that point, there was some confusion as far as locked doors, master keys, and the difficulty in going floor to floor. So there was originally 2 team leaders, myself and Sergeant Parker, going to take separate stairwells. So it was determined that only one team would do that task. So I took mine back out of Gateway and waited outside as evacuees were coming out of the building.
Okay. How long did you spend there?
At that point, maybe half an hour, 45 minutes, as other information started to come in.
How quickly then were you diverted to another task?
We were called back to the SWAT command post because they had said over our radio that they had suspect information and we may be moving to a secondary location. Went back to the SWAT command post. I took my team from there to Curry Ford Road apartment complex because they may have found a vehicle or the suspect vehicle there.
All right. Was that the Hollowbrook Apartments on Curryford?
It was.
Okay. How were you dressed, or how were other members of the SWAT team dressed as you approached that location?
When we first approached, we had another briefing outside of Hollowbrook, but we took our armored personnel carrier, which is an armored truck, kind of like a Brinks truck or a Wells Fargo truck, kind of something like that, to picture it in your head. We're dressed in our call-out gear, which includes helmets, a heavy vest, a heavy exterior vest, camouflage, BDU's uniforms, tops and bottoms, and our weapons.
All right. You gave us some initials for the vehicle. What did you call it?
APC, Armored Personnel Carrier.
Okay. Does it have some logo on it?
There is no insignia on that truck.
All right. Is there any way to tell, as you're driving it, that it is an Orlando Police Department issued vehicle?
No. The lights that are on it are LED lights. They're white. When they turn on, they're red and blue, but just looking at it from the outside, I mean, some people may know, some people may not.
Looks like a military vehicle.
Yeah, some people do categorize it that way.
Did you have some confirmation that Mr. Rodriguez, Jason Rodriguez, may be in an apartment located there?
Yes. We were finally given that name as a potential suspect. At that point, I was given a photo of Mr. Rodriguez, and we were also given the vehicle description, which we had at Gateway, which was a Nissan Xterra, and we were told this could possibly be in the parking lot of the Hollowbrook Apartments.
Okay. The vehicle description was one that was registered to him, not necessarily one that was seen at the Gateway Center, correct?
Yeah, I don't know if it was seen at Gateway at the time, but yes, it was possibly Mr. Rodriguez's vehicle.
All right. Was that vehicle parked at Hollowbrook?
When we finally went into the parking lot of the apartment complex, yes, we did see the vehicle backed up into a space in front of the building.
Okay. Did you know which apartment within that complex was B207?
We knew the numbers to the actual building, and when you look at the building, there's a common foyer area that has 2 apartments on the ground floor and a staircase going up and 2 apartments on the second floor. And we were told at the time, we cannot see those doors with any numbers or letters on them because of the way it's set back into the foyer, but we were told it was the upstairs to the right.
All right. If I may approach the witness with what's been marked as states AF for identification.
You may.
you look at that photograph and tell me if you recognize what's shown therein?
That's the Nissan Xterra that we were told was Mr. Rodriguez's truck, and that behind there in the red glass area on the ground floor is the common foyer area to the 4 apartments in that building, and then his apartment would be upstairs to the right.
Does that photograph fairly and accurately depict both the vehicle and the entrance to the apartment as you've described?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this point, I would seek to introduce AF for identification into evidence.
What says the defense?
No objection.
We received an evidence, it states number,
15.
Permission to publish this item to the jury, Your Honor?
you may.
Does the court want to look at it first?
Thank you.
I'm going to provide you with a laser pointer. There's a green light on the side. It's showing you what's been introduced as 15 in evidence. All right, tell us what we're looking at.
This is the Nissan Xterra. This red entryway here is the common foyer area to the 4 apartments that they share. The staircase is just off to the right inside here, leading up to a 2nd floor landing. So the 2 upstairs apartments would be on either side. You can kind of make out the staircase there. And then Mr. Rodriguez's apartment would be up here. The one window that when it was zoomed out, that would be the window to his apartment.
That marker there above the door, B207.
Yes.
Is that why you're concentrating on that upstairs
Yes.
area? All right, and the window up to the upper right-hand side, do you know if that is part of the apartment complex for B207?
It is.
When you first arrived, was the car parked in this fashion?
It was parked there, yes.
All right, it looks to be slightly askew.
We
happened?
flatten both passenger side tires by pulling the valve stems.
Now, when you got there, located the apartment, did you see any activity in the window or in the stairwell?
No, when we first arrived, we pulled the APC that I talked about, our truck. We did not pull directly in front. We kind of pulled off to the side in this vacant parking spot here, but not all the way in the spot. And we wanted to verify first that the tag matched Mr. Rodriguez's truck. So when we pulled up, I had a couple of guys exit the rear of our truck, move around so they came along these bushes here in the sidewalk just so they could see the tag at first. They verified that it was the tag that was registered to Mr. Rodriguez. They came back to the truck and confirmed that with me. The next thing I did was we wanted to see about any other occupants in any of these other the 2 ground floor apartments, sorry.
All right, let me ask you this. When you pulled the vehicle in, pulled next to the Xterra to verify the license plate, were you making yourself obvious?
No emergency lights, no blue lights, red lights, no sirens, nothing like that. We just drove in.
All right. So you or members of your team, is this a small team, large team?
It's myself and a driver in the front, and then probably 5 or 6 in the back.
Do they all get out, or do you send one person out?
The first time, in order to verify the tag, I think it was 3 that got out, and the rest stayed in the truck just to verify the tag and then come back.
Okay. At what point were the tires flattened?
After we verified the tag, like I said, we wanted to see about any other occupants of the ground floor apartments before we tried to make any kind of contact or make our presence known. We knocked on both ground floor apartments inside this foyer area. We got a response from one apartment. We evacuated that apartment first.
All right. Now, in the process of doing that, are you still trying not to make your presence so obvious?
Correct, yeah. We were just parked there, no sirens, no lights, nothing on the PA system in the truck or anything like that.
Okay. That window in the upper right, was were the shades drawn, or there blinds, or there curtains?
There are blinds there, and when we first arrived, they were not pulled up, but they were twisted shut.
Okay. Were you able to see into the apartment in any way from your initial vantage point?
We couldn't make out like what room that was, you know, what type of room it was inside the apartment, but yeah, we could not see inside at first.
Okay. So once you sent somebody out to disable the Xterra by pulling or cutting the valve stem?
Valve stems, correct.
All right. Did you notice any activity in B207?
At that point, there was probably 3 or 4 of them. You know, one was doing the task of flattening the tires while the other one covers what we consider threat areas, which would be the stairwell, the windows that we knew at his apartment. When you pull the valve stems, it makes a large or loud hissing noise. So they did the rear ones and then moved to the front of the vehicle and started to do the front ones. And that's when the first person outside covering up noticed a change in the blinds.
What was that change?
They opened up some. They didn't, it's not like, if the vertical blinds, it's not like taking them and peeking. They all rotated open a little bit. So you could see equally amount. Not fully, but there were some lines in the blinds now. So we knew somebody was inside and manipulating the blinds.
All right. Were you able, from your vantage point, to see someone in there?
At first, I'm inside the truck still. At first, I could not see anything. And then one of the guys outside, we can't just talk through that armored personnel carrier. We have to use radio transmissions. So they could make out a figure standing in the window.
Okay. So were you ever able to yourself?
Once I looked harder, then you could see like a shadow of a head standing in the window. At that point, I got on the PA system, since we knew he was already looking at us. Got on the PA system, announced our presence, who we were, what we wanted him to do, and that type of thing.
All right. You said you could see a figure in there. Could you tell if it was male or female?
I could not tell if it was male or female at the time.
All right. Could you tell if that individual was doing anything besides standing there?
At the time I got on the PA system, I told them, Orlando Police Department, we need you to come to the door with your hands in the air. We could actually see hands go up in the window before he moved away from it.
Okay. And were you able to maintain sight?
No, obviously when he moves away from the window there, you can't see him anymore. The door is in the back of this foyer area here. As I gave the commands, he did step away from the window, so we lost sight of him. The officers that I had on the ground by the Xterra then moved to the red foyer area. They did not go inside yet, but they can see his entry door at the top of the stairs from that position outside. So I was giving commands, telling him to come to the front door with his hands up, and during that brief time we lost sight. You know, there was no communication or anything, but then the front door did open, and then those officers saw him come out to the landing with his hands in the air.
Did you move to the apartment?
At first, I stayed in the truck until I realized that he was at the bottom of the stairs and he was taken into custody and handcuffed safely. We moved him out of the foyer, down the length of the building slightly, and passed him off to a patrol officer, and they placed him in a patrol vehicle. At that point, all of us, except the driver of our vehicle, we moved upstairs to clear the apartment to make sure there was no other occupants inside.
All right. So you did go into the apartment.
I did.
Did you notice whether or not there was any music playing? Was the television on? What were your observations?
When you first come into the upstairs door there, there's sort of like, it's in the middle. The living room is towards the back with a slider to a balcony. This window actually turns out to be the kitchen, and there was a television playing in the living room area.
Okay. Were you able to determine what it was that was being displayed on the TV?
There was a news station on that had live footage of the Gateway Center downtown.
While you were clearing that apartment, did you make note of any other potential evidentiary items inside?
I did. Once you leave this kitchen area and move farther to the right, there's another window that faces the parking lot that belongs to 207B, which is a bedroom. We went in the bedroom, make sure nobody was inside that bedroom. There was a handgun sitting on a dresser near the window.
Was it sitting out? Was it in a holster? What
It
were
was
your observations?
open out on the shelf, and it was what we consider a lockback position. It was a semi-automatic handgun. I could tell from its position there was no magazine in the magazine well, and the slide was locked back, so there was no ammunition in the chamber either.
Okay, what do you mean lock back?
It's a semi-automatic handgun, it's not a revolver. So the top of the flat part of the handgun on the top locks back into a locked position, so you can tell whether or not the gun is loaded or it's empty. So, and there's actually a notch on the gun to lock it back and keep it in that position so you don't have to stand there and hold it back.
And from that position, you could tell, even without touching it, that it was empty and there was no magazine.
Correct.
I have no other questions for the officer, Your Honor. Thank you.
Cross-examination.
You said that the news was on the TV inside the apartment.
Correct. It was on a local news station that was airing live coverage of what was occurring downtown.
And were there any media around the Hollowbrook Apartments?
No.
All right. At all while you all were there?
While we were there doing this part of it, no. I think eventually they probably found out, but I'm not sure, like, when they arrived there.
Okay. And you said the handgun was not in the holster, just sitting on top of a dresser?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any redirect?
No redirect.
May the witness be excused.
He may,
Thank you, Sergeant. You may be excused.
subject to recall.
Subject to recall. Okay, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, let's take a recess to 10 to the hour of 4. Please remember all of my previous instructions.